we've got some questions, so I want to get to those and get your responses. So we have one here from a Mr. Beckman. He says, my first assignment in Korea was in 1972. That's quite a ways back. Has off-base living changed? And I'd say it's changed just a little bit. Well, Felicia, you're there now, and you deal with families that are coming over there, and some of them probably have to live off base. What can you answer that question for him?
Sure. So when we lived in Seoul, when we first got there in 2008, we were able to live on the base there for about 3 years. And then I was able to move down here to Humphreys 2011, and I lived off post. That was my first experience living off post. Yeah. Oscarville, if you remember where that is, out of the main gate. Was a wonderful experience for my first time living off post there, and then moved back to Seoul. But that time I lived by Samgachi Station, if you can remember where that is, right up by the War Museum. So it has changed quite a bit, but and it's changing as we're speaking right now. I mean, Seoul is a major city. So even though pretty much military is we moved down here. Seoul is a major city, and Seoul, as we say, is always going to be Seoul. Here in Humphreys, it's almost like, I can say, like a breakneck speed. It's totally different from 9 years ago, because again, like I said, I was here 9 years ago. I mean, the apartment what was woods and trees are now like big buildings and houses, and yes, and then you have Samsung. They have like major factories up the street. You wouldn't even recognize it. It's almost like a real big city. Many people say, oh, it's a rural town, and it's still kind of rural when you compare it to Seoul, but it's constantly, it's like ever changing. Each day it's changing.
Yeah, I noticed that too. A lot of apartment buildings going up around in Pyeongtaek that weren't there before. So no. I think in a few years, Pyeongtaek will grow, and I don't think it'll be a while before it ever gets to a city like Seoul. But talking with the leadership while I was there, they've done great strides in improving off-base living, especially there, Mr. Beckham, since 1972. So I would say it's changed drastically. Korea is an assignment of choice. I've served at camp. This is from Mr. Hines. I served at Camp Hovey and Suwon Air Base. I'm a bit biased, as my grandmother is Korean. I like the sage advice given, take risks, get explored. And he asked the question, how can I assist this organization from stateside? So I'll answer that question. Mr. Hines, you can send an email to, and for everybody out there, contact@kdva.net, and you can get involved. He also asked a question. Well, let me make sure it's a question. Hold on. He just made another comment. He said, active duty has to get involved with boss and connect with Katusa friends. NCOs can lead this charge and participate with soldiers. Well, I think boss is still pretty active over there, and still being assigned. Well, Mr. Kim, are you familiar with the boss program in Korea?
I don't know exactly what it is.
Better opportunity for single soldiers?
Oh, yeah, sure. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And Felicia, it's still pretty active over there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I mean, and personally, I think there's very good relationship between U.S. soldiers and the Katusas. If they become very good friends of them, then they invite them at his house or at his gathering together with the families. But on beside of that, actually, would we promote them maybe during the vacation period? We just try to organize, the former Katusas, who can afford to accommodate them into the, the resort area, whatever. They can invite them. We try to develop this kind of program, for them.
Joe,
it's actually ongoing program.
I'm sorry?
It is ongoing program.
Oh, good. Yeah.
To invite all the military.
I believe it is too. I mean, there was a big boss thing over there when they had the whole big celebration for 75th anniversary, and boss had a booth out there. So I know it's alive and well. Joe, when you were over there, I know NCOA did a lot of things with BOSS, and were active duty like married folks and all that, were they getting involved with the BOSS program at all when you were there?
Yes.
Has it grown a lot more?
Through BOSS, FMWR, I would recommend again the BOSS programs, getting linked up with the KDVA, joining or at least working with organizations like NCOA, AUSA, KDVA, BFW. You get involved in those associations because they all work together as a team to again enhance the quality of life that the bases already have in place. And those organizations, those private organizations are very key. And in most cases, you don't really have to be a member of the organization to join in on their programs. I mean, we had so many family members and individuals involved in NCOA when we were there, and they were not necessarily members. I was even trying to give a voice to some of them, and I found out I'm not even a member, so I said, "Well, I can't believe you've been working. I mean, you've been going with us on these different trips and different, activities in the community." So no, I just enjoy, doing these things. And I think that's another outlet for our service members as well as for our family members there. And we had a really close bond with the KDVA. We actually had what we call an English camp with a school right outside the gate, Boson High School and Middle School. And the KDVA, we had a program where it was the KDVA would explain to our service members what the Korean holidays were about, as an example.
Sure.
And then we would in turn explain to the Korean students and others what the American holidays were, so we could kind of exchange a culture. So more so than an English exchange, it was a cultural exchange. And I think that also helps a lot, that you learn about where you are. One of the things I did when I was on active duty is I would task the service members that came on to my division to read a book. And I don't know the author, but it's called, and I may have this backwards, but it's Ugly Korean, Ugly American. This book, if you read it, it gives you the cultures differences between the United States and Korea. Why they do certain things, why we do certain things, why they bow and shake hands the way they do, and why we do certain things that we do. And I wanted the service members to get an appreciation, a little appreciation, just a bit, on the culture, because I really truly believe that also makes a difference. And I think that's made a big difference. What makes a big difference in what we have as far as camaraderie and the teamwork that we have there in South Korea and the United States and Korea.
Yeah. When I was over there and going about and visiting soldiers like up in 2ID or the 2nd Brigade or down 19th, I would always ask the soldiers about how they enjoy being in Korea, and not just specifically from a cultural or entertainment side, but from a work side, and what they all told me was, here in Korea, we actually get to do our job, right? So we're training in our job, we're working hard in our job, and especially for somebody who's like on their second tour, who may have been in an area where he was out of his MOS or she was out of her MOS and weren't really able to focus, but get to Korea and they get to train on the equipment that they're going to use and all that. So I would say, so one of the questions is, was there anything different about training and working in Korea? Well, I found it to be yes. But Lieutenant Rue, so you was over there as an NCO, and how does training in Korea compare to training in any other air base?
Sure. So my previous experience, I just want to apologize. I got a fussy baby in the background if that's coming up on the audio. But so the joy of an intel assignment is that every intel assignment is different. So I had worked aircraft support before coming to Korea. And besides, prepping our air crews and training for what they could face as far as enemy threats while, the air crew is out, we never got to be immersed in that. We were stateside. I was in Charleston, South Carolina. And so we would brief our air crews and then they would go do support. They would do the mission while we were just support. And all of that changed when I got to Korea. I was on the U.S. Forces Korea Combined Forces Command Joint Watch Floor. And so that was the mission. Intel, was the mission. We got to see it and do it every single day. And so I can't get into too many details of what I did on the floor, of the watch floor there in Korea. But what I will tell you is that it was very rewarding to not only just be in that preparation mode. We were there for every missile launch. Anytime there was a North Korean provocation, I got to see it. And, we got to live and breathe, this is actually happening right now. And this is how my job matters right now at this moment, which was very, very rewarding. We don't always, as an Intel officer and as an Intel analyst, you don't always get that instant gratification, but we definitely got that there in Korea.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know we're about to run out of time. I'm probably going to get the hook from Colonel Lee here pretty soon. But I wanted to share one quick story with you. It was all about perception of Korea. I think Joe touched on. Well, everybody touched on it a little bit. So I was having a little bit of trouble getting sergeants major to come to Korea. Big surprise there. So I had we filmed a young Katyusha soldier, and we filmed him in spots all around Korea, different post-camp stations. And he was kind of the narrator of it. And he was talking about his country and what it is about his country that he would welcome them to come and see. Now, I will preface this with a little bit. When we're standing there, I was at the academy, the Sergeant Major Academy, and I had the whole class in front of me, and I said, how many here would like to come to Korea? Not one hand, not one. So we talked about it a little bit, and I showed the video. And I'm not exaggerating, there wasn't one hand. So we showed this video of this young soldier, this young Katyusha soldier up there, talking about his home, his country. And we were going through, and we were showing the city of Seoul and down in Daegu and Pyeongtaek, Camp Humphreys, all the different stations. And at the end of it, he said, so this is my country. Wouldn't you like to come and join me and see my country and being stationed in Korea? It was a very powerful video, and the young trooper did a wonderful job. So when that was all done, I said, so now, how many people would like to come to Korea? Now, I didn't get everybody, but I had probably a good 3/4 of the sergeant majors raising their hand. And when you talk to them one-on-one, it was because they, like I mentioned earlier, I was thinking of Korea as a building no higher than 2 stories and dirt roads, and because that's the stories they've heard from their grandfather or great-grandfather or somebody who served in the Korean War. They had no idea. Now, these are sergeants major, been in their career for a long, long time. They just didn't have any idea. And then you mentioned sponsorship. And I will tell you that we set it up to where Joe was there. We had people from housing and everybody there, all in a BTC, talking to the families and letting them know what Korea was all about. So I think changing the perception of what Korea is key. I agree with that. And I think the sponsorship piece is also key. Korea is an assignment of choice. And I'll be the first one to say that. I spent 5 years there, and I was deployed there 10 times back in the 80s 5 times for Team Spirit. I loved it. It wasn't a hard sell for me. My wife, on the other hand, getting to there, but once she got there, she absolutely fell in love with it. So I will tell you, it made that sponsorship and that experience a little bit easier for the family members to adjust. They had a good idea what was going to be there. So when they got on ground or got on the peninsula, it was a little bit easier for them to adjust to Korea. And I think that's key. I think the ROK-U.S. alliance is probably one of the strongest alliances. I've served in, Mr. Kim, you mentioned Germany. I've served 2 tours over there. I've never had a relationship with another military than we had with the ROK military. And that's just a fact. It's probably one of the strongest alliances around. So I'm going to shoot one more question out there. What has been the most unexpected, pleasant surprise about being stationed in Korea? And Felicia, let's start off with you. And then this will be my last question for our viewers out there, and we'll close it out. But I think we're on something here, and I don't want to stop.
Wow, for me, it's like I don't know where to start because I just had no idea. When I left Virginia back in 2008, the original plan was to do 2 years and to go back home. And then I came here, and again, just the partnerships were just, they were amazing. They have, and they still are amazing. The successes, you know, I came in as a classroom teacher, had no idea that I would even be in the position that I'm in today, you know, in a leadership position now, you know, serving all the teachers here on the peninsula and the children and community leaders. Had no idea that was going to happen. And that's a success. And then again, just I call them my brothers and sisters, my Korean brothers and sisters, just, you know, the partnership there for us, you know, on the other side of my profession, you know, as you said earlier, and you all read, you know, I'm a pastor with my husband. That's been phenomenal. Again, just had no idea that any of this would happen, and it's still yet happening. It's really been a blessing, and don't regret coming. It's just been amazing. And so the successes, I'm like, wow, just like almost like sometimes get overwhelmed.
Oh, I totally get it. I totally get it.
Yeah, just get overwhelmed. And just the warmth and the love that we have received from the time we landed here until right now, this moment, and even tomorrow. It's just been truly just amazing and a blessing. And that's from the heart. I mean, my son went to school here from 2nd grade all the way up, and he does have something in common with Miss Anna. He is at Liberty, and he did decide to do the Air Force stuff. I'm so sorry. He's the Air Force ROTC kid, but it's just been amazing. It's just been success all around, and I'm very thankful.
Well, the command is a lucky one to have you over there. So, and we thank you for everything that you do. Lieutenant Rue, what was the most unexpected and pleasant surprise for you as a young enlisted trooper, airman, I'm sorry, being assigned in Korea?
I think the biggest pleasant surprise for me, especially living in Seoul, was just the unlimited amount of opportunity to go explore, to adventure, just to go do and see whatever you want. It's got everything that any normal U.S. city has, but then there's just that there's so much more. It's just the exploration of a new city in itself is fun, but then to be overseas and everything feels new, everything feels different. So just that opportunity around every corner, no matter what you're looking for, restaurants, museums, the Seoul River, or the Han River, excuse me. That was probably one of my favorite things to go do. And every time we were down there, it was just seeing something new. So I loved it.
Awesome. Thank you. Joe, same to you. When you first went to
actually, I guess from being there so long, I mean, when I first got, like I said, we wanted to go there, but I never would have thought, 21 and a half years later, we'd be leaving Korea. I mean, maybe 4 years, but so I guess it just grew on me. I mean, and you mentioned Germany. I spent 9 years in Germany. So Germany was like, that was my first duty station. So that was like home for me, I thought. But then going to Korea, and then it was hard to leave even after 21 years. We had definitely thought long and hard about actually whether or not we were going to actually leave to come back to the United States. But with my daughter being here and with the job opportunity, we decided to come back. But it's just a lifelong experience that I've had there with the military, with the community, with everyone who's rotated in and out while I was there. I mean, I had service members that would leave, come back, and say, "So Major, are you still here?" Yeah, I'm still here. But the difference, and they say, "How are you still here?" So I guess in some respect that could be good and bad. Are you still here? No. I guess what kept me there really was, it's like the lieutenant mentioned, is that things are forever evolving. So as people transitioned to come in, I was still there. So it was a continuity there with the unit. And then I would have a new experience in indoctrinating them, or assisting in indoctrinating them, from the officers to the service members, into that, the military, what was going on with their assignment, as well as what was going on with the community. So for me, it was an ever growing experience. So when I finally got on that line and called DA and said I'm ready to retire, I felt like I had given enough in uniform to my assignment into the military, but I knew that I was going to stay there and be able to further enhance what I could do on the civilian side. So I definitely have some lifelong friends there. And I'm definitely looking forward to going back after this COVID experience is over. So maybe next year or the year after, I'd like to go back to visit. Probably will not go back there to live, but who knows? Like I said, I never would have thought I would stay there 21 and a half years either. So we never know.
I will share with you that it was the overwhelming response of the Korean people and how they welcome and love the U.S. The service members and their families. It was that kind of took me back a little bit, because having been in Korea, not in Germany, not that the German community wasn't, didn't enjoy being with the soldiers, but it was just night and day of being in Korea. And it was folks like you, Mr. Kim, who does that kind of stuff that make you feel welcome and appreciate what you do and appreciate your support of their country. And so it really made an enjoyable assignment for me and my wife. I would go back if I was still serving. I'd go back, and I look forward to going back like you, Joe, to visit again someday. Well, I've been given the hook to wrap it up. So I'm going to be a good moderator. Well, maybe I'm not a very good moderator. We kind of went over here a little bit, but I want to thank all of our first.
You did a great job.
Well, thank you. First and foremost, to the panel members and to Colonel Lee, thank you so much, sir, for setting this up, and thank you all for taking your time to be on this panel and share your experiences. It's been, I hope people watch this and they learn a little bit more about Korea and can appreciate your experiences. In KDVA, we really believe that people make a difference in the ROK-U.S. Alliance and the strength of our personal. Let me back up. I'm getting tongue-tied here. That's what happens when you start talking a lot. The alliance and the strength of our personal unbreakable bonds with Korea is what makes the alliance an alliance for the ages, and it is true. The bond there is unbreakable, and I think it'll live long after I'm gone. I'm thankful and so honored to be part of this. Again, thank you to all the panelists. I really appreciate your time. Please watch out for future KDVA webinars and events. If you'd like to add your voice in supporting the Alliance, please consider joining KDVA. It's free and will only take a few minutes at kdva.vet. Thank you, and God bless all of you, and appreciate your time. Felicia, I know it's getting late back there for you, so I bid you a good evening. And for those of you still in the States, enjoy your day. Joe, get back to work, and I'll turn it over to Colonel Lee for any closing remarks you may have.
Well, Sergeant Major, I tell you, this is, I think, one of the funnest panels we've had and one of the more significant. I think we talked about breaking down some of the misconceptions about Korea. Realistically, great place to train, real world mission, and a world-class country with warm people, the heart of the ROK-U.S. Alliance. So thank you again, Sergeant Major, wonderful job. And we look forward to seeing you at other KDVA webinars and events in the future. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Y'all take care.